Hey, good morning, everyone. It is now, well, it's now the afternoon, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, um, 10 Genius Hacks to Socialize Your Puppy Safely During COVID-19. And just as a little warm-up to get the virtual room started, I'd love to know informally where you guys are based out of. So I'd like you to open up your chat window. So the way you do that is you scroll over your Zoom taskbar, and towards the uh, the right side, you'll see a menu option called Chat, which opens a little box. And there, Charlotte has typed in that she's from Toronto, Emily's from GTA, Nadia, Hannah, and we'll see, how diverse our group is. We got someone from the UK, Calgary, Boston, Southern California, Vancouver, Thornhill, North Bay, Venezuela, from Latin America. Welcome. So yeah, type in where you're from, because it's just kind of fun to see where everyone's from and see how global our community is. And and I'm so excited because we are When Hounds Fly has traditionally been a very Toronto-based business, but I love the fact that we're able to expand our reach and help people outside of just our immediate community. When this is really what it's all about today. So thanks for playing the "Where Are You From" chat box game with me. Let's go over today what we're working on. So today, this is the overview of my presentation. I'm going to be talking about why this topic is so important. And very briefly, I want to talk about what socialization is and isn't. And this is not a how to socialize your dog presentation, nor is to say what is the technical aspects of socialization. There are plenty of other good resources about it. Today, it's really about taking the mindset shift, which is topic 3. How are we going to do this socialization thing during the restraints and constrictions we face right now? And this is where I present our team's 10 genius hacks to socialize your young puppy despite the fact that there's so many restrictions to our life these days. And we're going to wrap with Q&A. And just as a general rule, I'd like to actually take this time to introduce my co-host and panelist, Rachel. If you turn on your camera, say hello to the crowd.
Hello, everybody. I've started my video. I hope you can see me. Hi, I'm here to moderate today. So go ahead and type your questions into the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can today. Okay, I hope you enjoy.
Awesome. So yeah, so as questions pop up, feel free to type in the chat box. You don't have to wait till the end. We may pause periodically to answer questions. Rachel, as my moderator, will help me do that. And definitely there will be some time left at the end, so we'll answer as many questions as we can towards the end of the hour. So that's our agenda for today, guys. So a little bit about us. There's always this in typical webinars. So about the speaker. That's me. My name is Andre Yu, and I am the founder of When Hounds Fly Dog Training. I founded it in 2010. I am a Karen Pryor Academy certified training partner and also a certified professional dog trainer. Outside of the teaching of animals, my passion about animals is primarily focused on beagle rescue. I've fostered many beagles, and I've failed fostering numerous times, more than I can count. And in Toronto, I live in the neighborhood of Brockton Village. This is a picture of my first beagle rescue, Duke, who I adopted 14 years ago. The purpose of this picture is to illustrate just how clueless I was as a dog owner. I didn't know anything. You could probably play this game of like, how many mistakes do you see in this picture? Well, one, I've wrapped a flexi, which you should generally not use anyways, around a tree. And he's wearing a very stylish looking that I bought from the boutique that was the dog boutique in my neighborhood, a very stylish flat collar. So he was dragging me all over town, wrapping himself all over poles, and also choking himself walking on a flat collar. And I learned so much from this first dog. I can't tell you all the mistakes I made with this guy. And one of the reasons why I started When Hounds Fly was I just wished I knew this stuff before I got my first dog. And that's my wish in terms of the purpose of our organization. It's to help strengthen relationships with our animals by giving good information fast. So our team has grown. we're a team of 6 trainers now. Many of us are Karen Pryor Academy graduates and CPDTs as well. We've got 3 brick and mortar locations in Toronto, and to date, over 9,000 dogs and their families have learned with us and are continuing to do so now in this climate through our virtual class offerings. But enough about us. Let's get to why this is important. And a picture paints 1,000 words. There's a real risk that there will be an explosion of serious behavior issues with puppies that are what I call pandemic puppies now. And these are the top 3 concerns that I have in terms of emerging behavior issues. I'm worried about seeing dogs that freak out and lunge violently at dogs on leash because they are under socialized to other dogs because we can't allow them to meet right now. I am worried about dogs that are too afraid to leave their own house because everything is frightening. So the moment they leave the front door, trembling, salivating, and desperate attempts to escape and run home, extreme agoraphobia. I am also worried about dogs that won't let anyone come over because they've never been used to having anyone come over. And normally these problems could be mitigated through properly done socialization, but this is extremely difficult in this time. So before we get into how to fix this problem, we should spend a little bit of time talking about what exactly socialization is. So I'm going to do it with a very, very simple story to explain how genius the mechanism of socialization is in ethology. Imagine in a warmer climate, street dogs that, like you see here, a litter is born, and these puppies are probably somewhere between 5 and 7 weeks old. Their eyes opened a few weeks ago, and they're learning about the world. They are learning about who in the neighborhood that they live in is friendly. So they know the friendly children that play with them and snuggle them. They know the caring and lovely family nearby that often throws out scraps for them to eat and thrive off of. They're used to the workers that come every day past the street that they live on in their pickup truck. And they generally grow up in a safe environment. They know the neighborhood dogs that are peaceful and non-aggressive. And they live this wonderful life. These puppies manage to survive, and they make it past month 4. Now, suddenly, at month 6, something appears in the environment that they're not used to. It's a shiny truck and workers wearing odd colored and angular uniforms, wearing hats that they've never seen before, emerge with steel poles with hoops at the end of them. Now, these puppies did not see the dog catcher during their socialization window. So Mother Nature has gifted them with the sense that this is frightening and strange. And they reactively run away at the sight of these people. That's the beauty about socialization. It automatically teaches animals what I can feel comfortable about, and everything else outside of that socialization period should be treated with fear and distrust. So let's bring this back to Toronto. This is a great way for street dogs to survive being caught by animal control. But what are our puppies in our urban environments being super socialized to right now? Completely empty and barren streets. That is what they will see as normal. How will your puppy react when the markets open up again? How will your puppy react when you bring them to the first warm summer Sunday gathering at Trinity Bellwood's Dog Bowl? And how will your puppy react when after months of social isolation, your children are allowed to have friends over and you throw a birthday party for 10 of them? they will probably react in a manner very similar to those street dogs that defensively escaped or behaved aggressively to the animal control people that they weren't socialized to. So this is the heart of the pandemic puppy problem. Socialization will be difficult and, quite frankly, impossible in some cases after 18 weeks. So the question I ask you out there as a puppy owner is, what's your puppy's people and dog socialization history going to look like during this pandemic? Now, I realize there's a large group of people here from all over the place, and I want to actually open up a poll and ask a question. And the question that I'm going to ask to you is this. I want you to tell me, question number one is just describe yourself. I'm going to launch the poll, and the question is, are you an owner of a new puppy? Do you own an older dog? Or would you consider yourself a pet industry professional? Because I've invited all my colleagues from around the world to join me for this too. So the numbers are coming in, guys. And overwhelmingly, I am seeing mostly we have people here that have new puppies. So great, good for you guys. You're already ahead of the curve. Oh, a question was asked, what if I own a new puppy and an old dog? I would just pick new puppy owner, because you're mainly here, obviously. I think you're mainly here because you're concerned about how your new puppy is going to handle this. So I'm going to end polling and I'm going to share the results. And in a moment, you guys should see a pop-up that shows the fact that 85% of you are owners or soon to be of a new puppy. Some of you own an older dog, and I know you may be, I saw some of the people that were registered. Some of you guys are just really keen about dog behavior, so that's awesome. And then a number of my colleagues, other pet industry professionals. So the next question I want to ask, I'm just curious again. So amongst those of you that have puppies or are expecting to get a puppy soon, I am curious how old your puppy is right now. So I'm going to launch the poll, and you can pick under 8 weeks, meaning you don't have them yet, 8 to 12, 13 to 18, 19 to 24, or just older. Or you don't have a puppy, so maybe you're the curious or the pet professional. And the results are coming in. All right, I'm going to, it's quite a few, that's good. I'm going to end poll, and I'm going to share the results. So the majority of you guys actually have puppies within that 8 to 12 week window, which is great. And you know what, I'm going to say this, if your puppy is 13 to 18 or even 19 to 24 weeks, don't freak out, because I think that, you know, everyone develops at a different stage. Like, you know, when I was in grade 8, I still looked like I was a 10-year-old boy, and meanwhile, like my friends were like looked like young men, and you know, like everyone blossoms at different ages. So don't freak out about hard deadlines. What's most important is that we do what we can with what we have. So let's get to it. I'm glad that there's an opportunity here for us to really help a large number of people and puppies today. So back to the slide deck. Let's define very briefly what socialization is and isn't. And I'm going to keep it really simple. When I travel, I'm not a good traveler. I never was. It's kind of stressful for me to go traveling. I kind of enjoy it, but I get kind of antsy, and I have this sense of whenever I come back home from being far away. So a simple way to describe socialization using that analogy is, anywhere you want your puppy to be good with, you want to have your puppy basically have that feeling, like this is familiar, I'm good here, I'm at my best here, I can relax and be at ease. So if we want our puppies to handle St. Lawrence Market in the summer, then I want my puppy to be able to go into St. Lawrence Market and go, I'm in my element here. Or maybe your lifestyle is one where there are a lot of kids. So an objective would be having like your children's friends come over, and your dog's like, this is great, I love having kids over, they're so fun. So we want to create that home sweet home association, and it's done through exposure and pairing with good things. Like the best things in life, I'm a homebody. I love my home. So I love having my tea the way I make it. I like sitting in my sofa and watching my TV. Uh, by creating good associations, a lot of times it's with food, even for me. That's how I create that relaxation feeling in my home environment. We need to do that with our puppies, but they need to feel at home outside in the world where we need them to function. This picture here is not socialization. So I'm just going to take my dog to the dog park and he will be automatically socialized. Look quickly at this picture. We talk about body language in our puppy socialization class and even in our adult foundation skills class quite a bit. But this beagle is not being socialized. He is being traumatized. The assertive body language of the Ridgeback, not to pick on Ridgebacks, and also the fact that the terrier is probably barking and spinning around in circles, and that Airedale Terrier is giving him a pretty hard stare. This would be the opposite of socialization. This is what we might call flooding, not correct socialization. And again, we talk about this a lot in our puppy socialization and even in our foundation skills training for our owners. Um, this is basically a sum up of what socialization isn't. Mere exposure is not enough. So many times I work with people with fearful and aggressive dogs, and they say, I don't know, man, I grew up in downtown Toronto. We must have walked by a million construction workers because I live near a construction site, and we live near a busy dog park. So he walked by that dog park and met all these dogs, and so on and so forth. I don't know how he turned up being aggressive towards strangers and dogs. Well, exposure is not enough. Did the puppy have that, this is amazing, I'm so comfortable in my element feeling whenever he was exposed to those things? Often not. Limited experience is also another factor as well. Oh, we've got 2 kids, so therefore my puppy is automatically or automagically socialized to all kids. No, puppies and dogs are terrible at generalizing. I'm good with my little kids, people, my human litter mates, but I'm not good with others. And then lastly, going back to that beagle picture, trauma doesn't count. So, oh yeah, he was well socialized. So all these people, hundreds of people swarmed my puppy to pet him um, like a angry mob in The Simpsons. So the takeaway here, guys, is that it's really complicated. To do this properly is a seminar on its own. We don't have time for that today. So please rely on qualified experts to guide you and coach you. And I mean, I'm just pleading you, just come to our puppy classes, please, because we're the experts, and this is what we help people do. All right, so takeaway of this section: people mess up their puppy's socialization all the time. It does take skill, even on in normal conditions, and a watchful eye to do this properly. COVID-19 is going to make this 10 times harder, given the constraints we are facing. Now the mindset shift. This is something that everyone's had to do. Doesn't March 1st seem like a lifetime away? Doesn't March 1st seem like March 1st, 2013? Things have really gone upside down. But you know what? If you can't go party, party at home. The old rules don't work anymore. You can't have people over. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to the office. You can't go to church, temple, or synagogue. I think a lot of you are probably will go to Easter service online. Maybe some of you are there right now and you'll watch this recording later. But there's so many can'ts in the environment that we live in today. So let's innovate, guys. Innovative examples are in the human world. For example, no NBA, NBA 2K online tournament. Can't throw a birthday party? A 15-year-old girl put out a wish on our local Facebook neighborhood group saying, I'm going to do a birthday scavenger hunt. Can you please make a birthday card for me and post it in your window? And I'm going to go around and look for all these cards in my neighborhood and thank each and every one of you. Constraints create opportunities for innovation. And to the few professionals that are on this call, I'm going to throw this challenge out to you because our team had to get over this as well. Telling people to focus on innovation telling people to focus on vacuum cleaners and umbrellas and strange surfaces. Yes, don't get me wrong, this is very important. It is important to have our puppies comfortable with strange objects and textures and noises and all the stuff that has always been important. But only telling them to focus on this now is not innovation. It is the ostrich putting their head in the sand. And it's not going to help us if we have puppies that are bomb proof around every single brand of vacuum cleaner, but freak out when a person comes over. Part of my mindset shift and the mindset shift that I've given my team at When Hounds Fly to focus on is rejecting the statement that we cannot socialize your puppy towards dogs and people given the constraints. We just haven't come up with the solution yet. The creative and innovative ideas have not been written yet. There are no books on this. We're writing the book right now. So let's MacGyver this. Some of you guys never watched the show. I realized that there was actually a remake just a few years ago. Had no idea. But MacGyver was brilliant because he would use rubber bands, Tetra Packs, pop cans, and paper clips, and binder clips, and toilet paper rolls, and somehow turn that into a laser or a bomb, and get himself out of all sorts of sticky, constraint-filled situations. And that's the spirit that I present this topic today with. Before we get into those 10 hacks and a discussion about them, I need to give a disclaimer. Everything in life involves risk. This has always been true. And the information that we're operating on is changing from day to day. So what we thought was good advice or safe 3 weeks ago is no longer the case. So what advice we are giving today may not be valid as things unfold in the weeks to come. So therefore, please make sure to modify and innovate as new information comes out. Also, it's a global audience, so your local realities may differ significantly from our local realities. I am basing this based on where I live, which is the city of Toronto, which municipally has its own sort of like code of conduct and rules. We've got a provincial level of government that has its instructions, and we have a federal level as well. So make sure to comply with all the rules that you are forced to operate in, and also consider your own personal risk tolerance. As we know, there are people that are more vulnerable to COVID-19 than others, and those that are in situations where their risk of spreading it to others is greater. So please just be sensible with the advice that I'm going to give today. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I present to you the 10 hacks that we've come up with. 1 through 10. 10 is the mystery surprise hack. We'll get to the end. Meeting a new dog. Can't do that, right? Running off leash at the dog park. Ian Dunbar's meet 100 people in 4 weeks. Visiting the groomer. Most of us are not going to work, so dog parents going to work. Dog walkers should generally not be operating right now, so will my puppy handle that when it's time for a dog walker pickup? Strangers coming over is definitely a no-no. Experiencing a busy dog park, they're closed. Experiencing a noisy festival or party, social gatherings are not permitted, and the mystery one. So let's get to it, guys. I want to take a moment now to thank everybody out there who still has to work, and especially those who are working in frontline healthcare right now. They are the ones that are putting their lives at risk to take care of all of us. And one of the things that I've been thinking about personally is, how can we give back and help these people? We help by staying home, and we help by not operating our businesses, yes, but is there more we can do? And I came up with the idea, can we help them by volunteering pet sitting or care services for their dogs when they're out there busting their butt, risking their lives, and helping people? I think it's something we can do. It is well known that well-adjusted Mature adult dogs are actually very useful in helping socialize younger puppies and teaching them social norms. Uh, in fact, most socialization checklists involve having a younger puppy get some interaction with an older dog so they can learn things like calming signals, so the head turns and the lip licks. They can learn what level of biting is appropriate. And unlike other puppies, so puppy to puppy interactions, adult dogs can actually correct a puppy when they've crossed the line of social acceptability, and those lessons can actually be very useful. It's something that a human can't do, but adult dogs that are well adjusted and mature and well socialized can do it. So how might we help somebody that has care needs right now and also help ourselves by getting access to this teacher? Consider looking in your own neighborhood for your neighborhood Facebook group where there's an outpouring of support, people offering to help pick up groceries for elderly or vulnerable people. Consider being the person that creates a relationship with someone who needs animal care because they have to go to work right now. Uh, Nextdoor is another neighborhood-based social networking system that I'm not on personally, but I'm aware of. And I did want to actually give a shout out to another local small business in Toronto, BFF Playcare on College and Dovercourt, has a very well established, it's on their website, it's documented. They've created this volunteer portal where if you want to help someone in the front lines with care or sitting services, they've got a form where you just put your name, email, and contact information, and they'll connect you with someone in need. So kudos to them for creating this. And outside of the local Brockton Village, downtown Toronto West area with BFF, consider seeing what you can do out there in your local Facebook or Nextdoor community. Now, I want to give some caveats and some things to be mindful of. The first is this is you inviting a well-adjusted, well-socialized, behaviorally sound dog into your home. You have to be cautious to make sure you don't bring in a dog that has unsound behavior, which may traumatize your puppy. So that level of scrutiny is required. And then the other consideration that's very important is um, a dog is considered a surface. So in handling that dog, their leash, collars and harnesses, bringing them in your home, you have to almost treat that, as far as I know, like you're almost bringing home groceries from the store. I bought a carton of milk today. I washed it in the sink, as an example. So that level of care should be important. It is not without risk. So you do have to exercise care. I did see a question pop up, by the way, from Valerie regarding vaccinations. I think I'll answer that now. And actually, maybe Rachel, I'll ask you the question. A number of questions are coming up. What advice do you have regarding adult dogs meeting puppies that are not completely vaccinated?
That's a really good question. In general, in non-COVID times, if puppies are not completely vaccinated, you do want to exercise caution. We certainly want to be mindful of parvovirus in particular. So I would be asking people ahead of time if our puppies can meet. I would be asking them if their dogs are up to date with their vaccinations, and then I would do my best to keep their dogs away from, or my puppy away from their rear ends, because there is a slight chance if they weren't vaccinated and if they did make contact with the dog's rear end that parvovirus could be contracted. It's a mild risk, but it's certainly there. So I'd want to make sure that the dogs my dog was interacting with were up to date with their vaccinations.
I think that's generally always been our advice, which is like we encourage people with puppies that don't have all their shots to arrange. So this is pre-COVID-19 play dates with well-adjusted adult dogs. But it is important that some scrutiny regarding that dog's health status is important. Certainly, I think any record showing that this dog is going to the vet regularly, like for at least their annual, is a good sign that the owner of this dog probably is up to date with the care of their animal. I would be cautious about inviting an adult dog where oh, do you have the receipt from the vet when you did your last annual wellness test. Oh, I haven't been to the vet in a couple of years. That probably would be a red flag. I do want to suggest, though, that ultimately we will defer final sort of authority to questions like this to veterinary professionals. So if you're really not sure, asking your vet for advice would be a good one. But that is the advice we'd always generally given, being cautious and scrutinizing those playdate partners. All right, who has seen these? And hopefully everybody in this group is paying attention and heeding them. It is not okay to run your dog off leash in places that have been officially closed. And unfortunately, I still see that personally, and it kind of drives me crazy, but it's beyond our control. But what that means is our puppies don't have access to places to actually run free and learn what it's like, to not be attached to a leash or confined to a house. And I think that's actually a very important thing for your dog to experience early rather than later. So what is the hack for this? It's a classic. The good old long line, the trainer's friend. You can buy a 15 or 20-foot leash, and this allows your dog to experience some degree of being able to run and zigzag, yet the absolute end of the leash allows you to regain control if needed. Now, I do want to emphasize again, don't use the long line at the park that is the closed sign. That's not very neighborly in Toronto, at least. Your local realities may vary. So why not request or gain access to private property for use? Maybe you live in a residential area where there is a home that has an abnormally, again, private property, please. Maybe there's a home in your neighborhood with an abnormally large yard. You can request access to use that yard. The owners are not in the yard, so you are still maintaining social distance, and it gives you opportunities to run free. And there's actually a website that has existed before COVID-19. It's called Sniff Spot, and it was actually originally intended for people that had reactive dogs to look for places they could run their aggressive or unsafe dog safely. Consider looking at sniffspot.com to see if there are places in your neighborhood that are available for rent for you to, again, have your own private dog park, because I'm not proposing that you run your dog off leash at a public space. It's not cool. So again, be mindful of municipal guidelines and regulations and local community etiquette as well. Now, a plug, and again, these plugs are just out of the goodness of our heart. We aren't getting anything back for these plugs. I love this company, Salty Dog Canvas. They are based in Ontario somewhere, and they make the best tug toys and training accessories, but they also make the best long line I've ever seen. That's the one that I use exclusively. So Google Salty Dog Canvas if you want to look for a Canadian-made, really awesome long line. Who's experienced this? I think everyone here has, unless you happen to live somewhere where there's one supermarket per person. Social distancing has forced us to limit the number of people that go into a supermarket. And you gotta queue to get in. And at first it was a little bit discomforting. And whenever I go in there, I feel like I'm entering a war zone. And I see very cranky and angry people that are worried and anxious and frustrated. But you know what's really awesome about this opportunity? It's your 100 people in 4 weeks. You have a diverse group of people, all ages, sizes, shapes, ethnicities. They are captive and going nowhere, and they are all in one convenient location. They could all probably use some cheering up and entertainment. So I don't think there's any downside. I think there's only upside to making your daily walk with your puppy. Include the flyby to your local supermarket. Maintaining 2 meters distance, encouraging people to add a distance, ooh and ah, and make coochie-coo noises to your puppy is an amazing way to basically get a super intense exposure to a wide variety of people and normalize crowds. Super important, obviously, though, to, like I mentioned earlier, trauma is not socialization. And that's where, for example, in our puppy class, module 3, we talk about how to assess body language to know, is this good socialization or am I traumatizing my dog?
I think this needs to be done.
I don't know about you guys, but I am rocking a COVID-19 haircut, and I think many, at least men are for now, and it's a matter of time before anyone with long hair is joining us as well. If we have to do COVID-19 haircuts, then it's time for home grooming for our puppies. You can put a non-slip mat like a yoga mat on a table or counter and buy your grooming tools local and learn how to do a self-groom. And it's not going to be as good as the barber shop or the salon, but let's just get it good enough and get our puppies socialized to restraint and the sensations of grooming. And I do want to give out a local shout out again to Pet Value at King and Dufferin for resharing this webinar on their social media to get more people in our community here. So let's buy local, guys, to support small business. Give them a call, contact them on social media, and see what grooming tools they might have in stock so that you can arrange for contactless pickup so that you can get your dog socialized to the experience of grooming, and that includes nail trims. And this is, again, a topic that normally gets covered in our puppy socialization class module 2, where we go over the different exercises that owners can do to simulate vet visits, the groomer, and so on and so forth, so that you understand how to do this correctly, and again, not traumatize or freak out your puppy. Every day has basically felt like Groundhog Day to me for the last 2 weeks. I wake up and my alarm clock goes off, and I have to pause for a second to think really hard. All right, what day of the week is it, and where do I have to be today? This poses a problem because most of us are not going to work, and your puppy needs to get socialized to this routine. The risk of not doing this correctly is under socialized to departure dogs are likely going to become Velcro and severe separation anxiety cases. So why don't we all commit to wake up at a semi-normal time? Let's do the normal departure routine, which if you have children includes getting them dressed, and actually leave home for a bit. You don't need to go away for 9 hours and pretend you're actually at the office, but even going away for a 20-minute walk around the neighborhood with all human family members would go a great way at helping socialize our puppies to the idea of isolation and that they can be okay. In Socialization Module 4 in our puppy class program, we go over how to do planned departures and a graded isolation. And it is very important to assess for the level of comfort that is occurring at this time, because sometimes trauma can be caused but when people sort of throw their puppy in the deep end. But unless you're a clown or some sort of performer, what I want you to do is actually pack a costume with you when you leave for fake work. And here's why. Full disclaimer, do not do this video, but it proves a very, very important point.
I am gonna scare the hell out of my dog. She's probably gonna piss herself. Just a guess.
Maybe I should have given everyone a trigger warning. Sorry about that, guys. This adult dog is absolutely fooled that their human owner coming home with a mask is a complete stranger, and in this case, actually a total monster. And it is a totally cruel thing to do, but it proves a valuable lesson. If you come home from fake work wearing a outfit, you will likely be recognized as a stranger to your dog, which gets your puppy socialized to the idea that random unknown strangers are going to come midday while their parents are at work for a midday walk. And I can't tell you the number of dogs that I've met over the years that are so fearful when a dog walker comes over. They hide in the corner, they go under the bed, they go into their crate. And if the dog walker, because it's their job, tries to go in to get their puppy, the dog rather reacts aggressively and bites the dog walker. It's a fairly common behavior issue with some dogs. who didn't grow up with this experience. So put on that mask and come home. And again, in terms of messing things up, don't freak out your dog like that video was. However, again, there's a fine line between socialization and trauma, so it has to be done really carefully. And that's where some expert advice can be beneficial. Which dovetails into challenge the next challenge, and also this hack. Your dog is not used to strangers coming over at all, so I'm going to propose 30 days of Halloween. How many disguises can you come up with? You don't even need to put on a crazy Halloween mask. A big hat can do it. Bundled up with a winter scarf, a motorcycle helmet with a visor, big puffy coats, big boots. All these things, you can simulate the idea of different types of people entering your home. And if you have the luxury or benefit of having multiple people in your home, you can actually go so far to role play and be like, hey, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, as you're doing this to another family member who's dressed up. Have them come in, take their coat, have them take a seat in the living room, get them a beverage, catch up. And while you're socializing as well, focus on excellent polite manners training. You know, another thing that we teach in our classes is how do we train our dogs to greet people politely when they come over, to maintain things like 4 paws on the floor so we don't have overexuberance and jumping, or also good manners around the table. So you can have a fake company over for dinner situation where dressed up guests in costume are seated and we're working on manners like stay on your dog bed or stay in your crate during dinner. These are really rich opportunities that are possible. You just need to go dig up from the junk drawer what kind of disguises and costumes you might be able to procure. Here's another thing that I thought about that came to me. Over the years, I've had a number, not many, but some behavior cases where the primary problem was my client's dog would react aggressively whenever a dog appeared on TV. And it made me go to YouTube, and I just found some amazing videos of dogs watching TV, and I have to share this one. So it got me thinking. Dogs watch TV all the time, and normally it's a behavior problem. My dog freaks out and barks like a maniac whenever he sees another dog or animal on TV. That's the most common thing. And in fact, dogs even watch cartoon dogs, like watch this video. So if our dogs watch TV and they react to dogs on TV, let's take advantage of that. Rachel, do we have a question?
I do. One that just refers to the point just before this one. And Charlotte asks about you dressing up and taking your dog out. Wouldn't your dog know your smell and therefore the costumes might be ineffective or perhaps not as effective?
That's a great question. And listen, smell is like the number one olfactory, is the number one sense of our animals. The olfactory sense is the strongest. In fact, that's why my mostly blind 50-year-old beagle can still navigate the world. She recognizes where the stairs are outside based on the change in smell, for sure. So can't fool me. Well, you know what? Look for different ways to scent camouflage. Can you perhaps put on a different type of perfume or cologne? Can you, I don't know, like uh, smear yourself with with suntan lotion? Now you smell like coconuts. I would definitely look into doing some sort of scent camouflaging as part of my 30 days of Halloween and dog walker visit. Why not?
I,
Don't take up smoking though. That's probably a habit you don't want to pick up. But yeah, let's. I would do the scent camouflage. Great question.
yeah, great question. Thank you.
But anyways, here's my crazy hack about TV. Dogs watching TV is hilarious. It's normally a problem. Oh my God, my dog barks whenever there's a TV ad that has a dog. In fact, I had a client with a dog that recognized the jingle for the commercial that would predict the dog appearing towards the end of the commercial and would bark at the jingle. Normally it's a behavior problem, but let's flip that script and make it an asset. Let's look for videos on YouTube of dogs playing at the dog park, well socialized, behaviorally sound dogs that are doing pro-social or affiliative behaviors like paw lifts and play bows. And let's supervise it, obviously, so that our dogs don't develop a barking problem with the TV. But it might be a way, and again, I'm throwing my hands up here, it might be a way to get your dog like doing their own version of learning from Zoom, if you will. We've got, my niece and nephew are taking classes online in the public school system. So maybe this is the canine equivalent. Sit your dog in front of the TV and let them watch dogs communicating through video. If you're in Toronto, you probably heard and know that most festivals have been canceled or postponed. Caravana was the most recent to officially get canceled for this year. So my puppy will not experience floats and crazy, crazy loud masses of crowds with people dancing and singing. This is not going to be available to my puppy, but the pandemic has created an opportunity that is actually quite golden, in that this actually could help our puppies be more resilient, and it is this. We have a new tradition, at least in Canada, of at 7:30 p.m. every night, when the shifts for healthcare workers change over, people are coming out on their porch, their balconies, walking up and down the street, banging pots and pans, hooting and hollering every single night. And initially, this appeared in our team team psyche as a problem, because we were getting emails from clients saying, oh my God, my dog is developing noise sensitivity because every night the pots and pans have been scaring my dog, and now my dog is starting to get anxious whenever the sun starts setting. Flip that script, turn it into an opportunity. This is your nightly Caravana or Mardi Gras festival in your own neighborhood. So why don't we start exposing our puppies carefully to the sights and sounds at 7:30 and do some really thorough counter conditioning work so that your dog learns to expect a party of treats at the same time. Quick note there, start indoors or through a window or like at a safe distance, because again, this is another one of those really dangerous ones where if you screw it up, you will probably traumatize your puppy and cause noise phobia. In fact, we do in Puppy Socialization Module 4 a discussion about, Puppy Socialization Module 3, rather, we do a discussion about exposure to sounds. So queuing up the last hack. This is Rachel teaching class. And I will personally admit, I really have enjoyed the virtual classes I've taught. And when I'm in the moment and I'm working with our clients and I see their dogs on video and I give them advice, and then my clients respond saying, thanks. And then my advice is then used, and then my clients delight at the success of their puppy during these virtual classes. For a moment, I forget that I'm sitting at a chair with a headset on, and I really think I'm back in the classroom, like this picture. Well, guess what? This is a typical puppy socialization class. it's always mostly been about humans teaching humans. 80% of puppy classes are all about you anyways. And we were the first company in Toronto, as far as I know, to launch virtual online classes for puppy class and our basic skills, foundation skills class. And we were picked up in Toronto Life very early on because we were first to go. So going to puppy classes was for you. So it's still available. I want to show a little video that we created of the fun that our clients and our community are having given the new constraints we have, to give you a sense of what dog training classes with When Hounds Fly look like in this environment.
All right. So our class today is Puppy Socialization Module 3. Here is what we're going to be looking at.
She's in there, and she does have a treat out here. She tosses another treat just to reset him.
So I'm still using a food lure here. So treat is between my fingers, and I'm luring Mila into the sits.
So, hands behind his back, click for eye contact, gives Bear a treat.
At-home workouts. Do this. We do it. We can totally do that with our dog.
Yes, excellent job with Roxy.
Almost there. Yes, click for that. He was taking steps backward.
Aya has a solid understanding of this. Dash is already walking on a loose leash to get the treats.
So in these days of, and it's lots of fun for us as well.
So in these times, guys, we should all be adapting and innovating. And that's why we have virtual classes. We're still maintaining our 3 brand promises of being positive reinforcement based, effective, convenient, just now from anywhere. And in fact, to make sure that people feel like they can trust this, we've launched something called the Virtually Delighted Guarantee, where if you come to a class that you've paid for and you just feel like it wasn't what it was supposed to be, we'll give you that class credit back for use when we reopen. And right now, guys, we're giving away freely. I think that everybody in the world, in our community, globally, should be thinking about what can I do to help everyone else. So as a reminder, this is free today. Another thing that you may not know, our puppy socialization and foundation skills classes are free to audit. So if you are financially affected by this pandemic, you've lost your job and you're worried about how to make ends meet, but you still have a puppy, just come to class. They're free or on a pay what you feel basis, and $0 is 100% totally okay. The other thing that we're announcing today is that to further help our frontline health workers, details to follow, we're also going to offer them free 30-minute phone consults with one of our experts, so that if they're struggling with a dog behavior issue, we want to help take that off their plate a little so they can focus on what they need to do. And this is our way of giving back. So this is my ask for those of you with puppies out there in this audience today. Please just come to puppy socialization class. We're still taking paid full spots. So for the back and forth feedback where we watch you and we answer your questions live, those are still paid classes because as a small business, we've been severely effective, and we're really grateful for those that can support and keep us going and keep our team going. If you have the means, auditing is pay what you can. And like I said, if you can't, come audit for free. We're totally happy to have you watch and gain expertise and learn from osmosis. Now, I just presented 10 hacks today, but I challenged my team last week, guys, let's MacGyver this, and we actually have way more that we've assembled. So after next week's classes where we recap the first 10, we're gonna present hacks 11 through 20 in the weeks to follow. And we'll probably have more than that by the time we get to week 3. So come to class to learn more hacks. And then here's the give back to everyone. If you out there come up with a hack on how to socialize your dog safely and responsibly and lawfully, let's share it to everyone. Other pet professionals, those of you that are on the call, feel free to steal my hacks, our hacks rather. Give freely so that we all can benefit and not have this explosion of reactivity and anxiety in 3 months. So to summarize, socialization now or major pain later, it's always been the case, but more so now. There is risk complications, so lean on expert advice. Let's innovate, share and give freely, and just come to puppy class. Rachel, do we have some questions?
Yeah, we got a couple questions. One was from way earlier. Janice was just wondering how she can socialize her 9-month-old service dog to things like escalators and elevators and things like that during this time. What your thoughts around that would be?
That's more difficult. And this is borderline, this is almost like having to understand what the legal and the legal rules regarding your state of emergency realities are. And I'm certainly not a lawyer nor an expert in the rules. But my view, and I could be wrong, so again, full disclaimer, I could be wrong, is businesses that are involved in the manufacture or servicing of medical equipment, well, that's an essential service. And if you are raising a guide dog, or a service dog that is being trained for a specific medical task or like a need for a person, a medical need or a need, then I would argue that the socialization of that service dog is actually part of the manufacturing of a medical device. So I would suggest that while maintaining social distance, I'm sure elevators are actually pretty quiet these days, or escalators and elevators aren't that busy. I probably would be taking my service dog in training to off-peak the subway station and riding the escalator and elevator because I think it is essential. That's my 2 cents. In the chat box, if other people have opinions, I'd be curious to see if there are. And certainly we're going to take this offline and continue the conversation on social media. That's my 2 cents.
Awesome. And then there's a question from Charlotte here saying, is socialization really impossible after 18 weeks? Because by that logic, then the dogs would have a faulty puppy socialization. You'd never have a normal dog if you weren't able to socialize them by that 18-week mark.
Right. I'm going to stop the screen share for now just so that everyone can see Rachel and I more clearly. So is it true that 18 weeks is like too late, too bad, you missed that? Well, here's the truth. I actually have never owned a puppy. Full disclaimer. I'm only someone who has rescued adult dogs. So I've never actually socialized a puppy myself. This doesn't disqualify me as being an expert to be able to talk about this topic, but my personal experience here is this. I have rescued some very troubled dogs. Dogs that had severe dog aggression. Dogs that have bitten people, punctured people, severe separation anxiety, including like vomiting and other terrible things on the wall. So I know that the opposite spectrum of lack of socialization. And did I help these dogs? And the answer is yes. But I will tell you that the work that I had to put into those adult dogs that had these issues was, no exaggeration, probably 1,000 times more work than if I had actually had access to those dogs as 8-week-old puppies. So my answer to you is this. If you have an 18-week-old puppy, again, think about development. Like, you got 12-year-olds that look like they're 19-year-olds in middle school. And then you've got 14-year-old kids that look like they're 10-year-olds in middle school. That was me. Well, I think that all dogs do develop differently. So these are general rough guidelines as to when things change. So just make use of what you have, but be aware the older they get, you are shifting from socialization, which is what we're talking about today, towards remedial behavior modification, which is what my world is all about, which is why time is of the essence. I hope that answers your question.
That's it for sort of now. We've been answering some questions along the way. How old do puppies need to be to join the foundation skills classes is a question here.
Great question. So guys, under normal circumstances in a brick and mortar classroom where people come to the classroom, we want them to have their 3rd set of shots because we just want to make sure that we comply with general good advice regarding mixing adult dogs and puppies. However, it's virtual right now, so there really is no age limit. So there are people that are taking our foundation skills classes with dogs that are younger. However, I will warn you, foundation skills class is a pretty training intensive program. Its intention is just to really work on obedience, quote unquote obedience skills. So puppies often bonk out mentally because of the duration of training. So all are welcome, but be mindful your puppy may not have the attention span. It would almost be like sending a 7-year-old child to grade 11. I mean, in principle, they could go. And there are some genius kids out there that do, but for many, it may be a little bit too taxing at their developmental stage.
There's a couple of questions here. How heavily would genetics and breed play into socialization, generally speaking? Naturally aloof puppies learning to tolerate versus a very socially outgoing puppy. Give your just general thoughts on that, Andre?
Absolutely. So the outcome of the dog in the future is really restricted by two things. One element is nurture, which is what the environment teaches that dog, especially during their socialization period. The other element is nature, which is the genetic hand that was dealt to that dog, which is at this point, if you have the dog largely out of your control, because the factors that affect the nature component are the temperament of the breeding pair, what the female that carried the dog was like emotionally and stress like during term, and so on and so forth. So it is a combination of nature and nurture. Now, the way we think about it is this, or a simple analogy might be this. If I'm 5'3", that's my final height. The likelihood of me getting to play in the NBA, not so great. So the cards that I were dealt make it less likely for me to succeed in that environment. Well, I think we can do the same for dogs too. So if you have a breeding pair that had sound temperaments, and they're likely going to make a batch of puppies that have sound temperaments. Conversely, if you have a fearful or an aggressive breeding pair, you're likely going to have puppies that start off more on the shy side. That's the hand you're dealt with. Get to work, because there are some short NBA players out there. They just have to work really hard, and they have to have tremendous skill and luck. But you can take a dog that has less genetic potential and through proper socialization, move them towards what you want, which is more sociable and more confident. So there is hope there. But I would argue that if you wanted to get like the one percentile best of best, then it probably means you need to do everything correct, which is select for the best genetics and do all the raising properly to get the one percentile of most sociable, if you will. So net, unless you're still choosing your puppy, that's beyond your control. So let's focus on what we can do, which is the nurture component, which can affect the expression of genetics as they develop.
Question here, when this is over, says Kelly, should I send my dog to daycare or instead of a dog walker to make up for lost socialization time? Because now they're used to having company all the time. Is that something you would recommend when this is all over?
That's a great question. Like, how do we do remedial socialization? So, in fact, one of the things that we've been playing with at When Hounds Fly is that we're going to run puppy parties for our current puppy socialization students that are taking class virtually, to look for remedial opportunities for our community's puppies to interact with one another. So we're looking forward to doing that very thing. But going back to the whole, it's complicated, guys, and there's a fine line between doing it properly and totally screwing it up. If a daycare is run well, they vet the dogs properly that are allowed in there, behaviorally sound, the staff are well trained, and adequate supervision in terms of staff to dog ratio. I think the right dog daycare could be a very good environment for a puppy to learn to be social. That's what we intend to do when we launch When Hound Fly puppy parties, the makeup puppy parties for people that have pandemic puppies today, because it'll be us supervising it. Some dog daycares are well run. Some I would never even walk close by. So that ultimately is the answer to my question. It depends on how good your daycare is.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great answer. What do you say, Andre? Another one more or two more?
Sure. We're 5 minutes past. Why don't we take one more and then we'll wrap for today.
Okay. So sorry if we don't get to everybody's question, everybody, but we're here. We're here to help you. So if you have specific questions, you reach out to us. We've got a wealth of knowledge and we'd love to share with you. Is it possible to focus on socializing my puppy with most things on the list, noises, people, wheel things, and then make up for lost time with people, dogs after when the world goes back to normal?
Repeat that question, Rachel.
So the question is it possible to focus on basically what we can, as much as we can, and then make up for lost time with the dogs and the people later on?
Great question. Okay, thank you. So yes and no. I do think that we should not neglect things that, like the vacuum cleaners and the noises of the surfaces, we should still be doing that, absolutely. So anything that we can socialize to completely and normally we should be doing, because I wouldn't want a people fearful dog and a vacuum fearful dog, right? Why, right? So we should definitely focus on that. One advantage is still focusing on the basics, like the vacuum cleaner, the police horse, the bus going by, the skateboarder. Why that's important is because there is a potential to create some general resiliency to novel objects through rich socialization in general. And it works like this. Brand new puppy is socialized to weird thing 1, and the experience turns out, wow, this was amazing. That was just one experience. Experience number 2, that's weird and new, I've never seen that before. Wow, it's amazing. Experience number 3, another weird thing. Wow, that's amazing. 4, 5, 6, 10, 9. By the time you hit the 49th interesting and novel experience, the dog's gonna say, I have generalized that anything new and scary must be friggin' awesome. So there is tremendous advantage to still focusing on the basics, because you might create a dog that is generally resilient and looks at anything that is new as something to go towards versus recoil in fear from. And that's something that we've experienced personally in the way that we coach our clients to raise their puppies. And I've experienced this too in rehabilitating or doing behavior modification for fearful dogs. If you expose them to 100 new things and they all turn up awesome, they start craving new things, which is the opposite of running away in fear. So huge potential there, very important still. I think at this point we should probably wind down the webinar.
Right.
So I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen and leave one slide for you guys. So the page is not up yet, but I intend to put this webinar and some additional resources and certainly the write-up for what we talked about to the following website, whenhoundsfly.com/pandemicpuppy. It's not up yet. I need to do this later. So just bookmark the URL. It's not up. Follow us on Instagram at whenhoundsfly.com. And if you come up with a puppy hack, a socialization hack, mention us in the post, and maybe we'll regram it to further share the hack that you've come up with. And you can also do the same and participate in the conversation on Facebook as well. Our page is When Hounds Fly, Positive Reinforcement Dog Training. With that, I think we're going to wrap up today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you the best of luck. And let's continue being strong, let's continue innovating, and let's continue giving freely in this time of crisis.
And then we're having lots of big thank yous coming in here, Andre. So yeah, lots of love pouring in.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your Easter Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you in class virtually or in person soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a great Sunday.